Hey everybody, I am behind the camera. This is Josh Yellen, one of the co-founders of Urban Rivers, and across the way we have.
Nick Wesley, another co-founder of Urban Rivers.
All right, so Nick, let's go on a little journey along the installation, and everybody at home, we're going to go ahead and explain a little bit about what we built here with the help of your donations, and tell some stories about the wildlife and also the people that have been out here and enjoying what we've built. So, Nick, why don't you start us off?
Absolutely. So we have right here basically 166 foot long floating wetland, okay, floating garden. Each of these sections have been meticulously designed by some of our design team at Skidmore and some of our botany team uh, headed by Peter Nagel. Now, each one of these parts, each one of these sections has a different purpose. It's a large experiment. We have almost 50 different species of plants planted. Each one is being observed to see what works and what doesn't work. So you'll see a nice diversity as we move forwards. Now, I'll bring your guys' attention to this area right here. Lots of these are prairie plants, so they are normally traditionally seen in drier areas, okay, less water. So this was a real interesting part of our study to see how they fared in this type of environment. So far, they've actually proven much better than what we previously expected. You know, we wanted to see, or we expected rather, to see a lot more die-off, a lot more plants struggling to adapt to this unique environment. But we've seen a pretty interesting success rate, so it'll be cool to observe how that progresses.
Yeah, and you can see all these flowering plants. A lot of these are in the prairie section Nick mentioned, and that's provided this really lovely, floral element to the installation. But it's also attracted a lot of interesting insects and pollinators, which was part of the strategy here, was to bring a lot of those folks in. And as Nick mentioned, it's amazing how well, these plants, which are not necessarily wetland plants, are growing in this environment. And that's thanks to the really good hardware that Biomatrix Water has worked with us on. And it's very adaptable, meaning, you can plant wetland plants by kind of planting them a little bit deeper in the planting rows that you can see in some of these. So right there, you can see those ridges. Each of those is sort of a planting row. And if you plant the plant pretty deep in there, that's, going to get the roots direct contact with the river, and wetland plants will go pretty well there. And the prairie plants you see here, if you plant them a little shallower, they grow in just fine. And they kind of seek out within that coconut coir that you can see, all that brown stuff, they kind of seek out a root level that brings them, to a comfortable place. And that's, what we found here through this past season and in our smaller experimental module is you can grow almost anything in this stuff, and it grows really well because they can find out their little, where they want to be as far as root depth, and they figure that out on their own more or less. And along the way, plants just do very well with this river water because it's basically, liquid fertilizer with all the things that are traditionally problems, over-nutrification and sewage overflow, but it actually works really well with the plants.
Absolutely. Part of the things that you see also are some of the animals. So right here we have our bird platform. Now, this was unique. You might notice there's fencing around the perimeter here. We installed that to keep geese out from basically decimating the populations before they had a chance to really tame. But we left the space open to allow birds access to this. Birds are a stakeholder in this riverway. One of the very cool things we found is that within a few days of installation, a family of ducks basically took up that area and claimed it as their own. So over the course of the season, we were able to see them grow up and go from tiny little ducklings to much bigger infant ducks. Also interesting to see they were pretty ingenious and able to escape into here. So you have ducklings small enough to just walk through the holes in the fence, and a mama duck which would find its way to jumping over. Sometimes getting a little scared because it was a little difficult for her to get out, but we eventually decided to put a duck door to allow her access in and out while trying to limit the access by the geese. Now, to quote Jeff Goldblum, nature always finds a way. The geese found their way in. They ate all these plants right here. Part of the strategy to see what types of levels of herbivory we were able to observe. The geese loved it.
But something I want to note. So yes, that's a learning, and it's these plants right here as well. Geese love to eat this. They have a softer stem than a lot of our other ones we're growing, and we tried to protect them, as Nick mentioned, but they got through. But something I want to mention is all this fencing. So most of their installation, other than a few select sections, are fenced in. But this is a temporary measure to let the plants take hold, mature, and become a little bit more goose-proof. And the intention is maybe the end of next season or early the following season, we'd remove all fencing and it would all be completely open, to geese and all sorts of waterfowl. But we're just doing it slowly to make sure that the ecosystem takes hold.
This section is one of my favorite sections, the pollinator section. So, as I don't know if you can see on camera, but there's several butterflies, some bees flying around here. You can see if you zoom in right there on that plant, which is the queen of the prairie. We planted all of these to allow pollinators on, and as I can see here, I see at least 5 different species of insect just in this one shot. But you have plants such as milkweed, which was meant to attract monarch butterflies. We were able to find monarch butterflies coming through this area, and caterpillars actually on them, which is extremely exciting for us, something that we'd love to have seen this year, and it was great to see our visions realized. Our dreams came true. But you'll notice it's always alive with activity. There's not that much area for these pollinators to be. They're kind of isolated out in Chicago. So having these large areas with plenty of space for them, I think, is a real treat. And it's a real treat for us to be able to observe all of these different insects. These lagoons are pretty cool. One of the things we get to observe is fish. And now the water the levels, you can't really see through the water very easily, but what the fish end up doing with these lagoons is they swim up right up top, so you'll see, some of the fins and stuff come out of the water, moving around in this little lagoon in the raft. So,
and we have some exciting plans for these. So a habitat that's very rare in the Chicago River system is shallow water, because you have these seawalls, right? And it goes vertically down, and then, it's part of the reason we're building these floating riverbanks is to, allow for some unique habitat opportunities. But we still haven't created shallow water habitat, and so what we plan to do is drop a little bit of a shelf underneath there and create this protected nesting zone that'll be effective for a lot of fish, but especially amphibians. And it'll be a place that tadpoles and young of the year fish can kind of be safe, and we'll plant some wetland plants in there. And so anyway, this sort of hole, if you will, in the installation is very intentional, and we're very excited about what we can do with that. Yeah, and one more thing to note is you can see, if you look out on the river, and it's pretty calm right now, but you can see the ripples. And if boats go by, wake comes through, and it can disturb the ecosystem a little bit. We found that this is pretty resilient, but if you look in here, it's very calm. And even when the boats come through, the outside modules act as sort of a breakwater, and this stays very protected and calm, and that's going to really help that shallow ecosystem I'm mentioning. This board you see here, this is intentionally installed. This is for turtles and other animals to pull out of the water if they want to and capture some sun and just get dried off. And right here, this was, as Nick mentioned before, was intentional bird habitat. This is intentional turtle sanctuary, and we've got some ways for them to climb up out of the water and utilize this. And we plan to make this a little more sophisticated with nesting habitat and things along those lines. But right now, it's just meant to be a pullout for them to get out of the water and get some sun.
One section here is this ag section. We had growing here squash, which was elevated above the river walk, and we were able to harvest a lot out of that, so that was really interesting. This section right here were strawberries, and one of the things we found is we planted them much too close to the squash. The squash very quickly took over this area and kind of smothered most of those plants, but with the few strawberries we were able to get, I can inform we were able to try them, and they turned out to be extremely tasty, surprisingly. After the season, we have a bunch of samples from all of these different plants, and we're bringing them to a lab to see what these plants uptake. So what types of heavy metals and pollutants actually uptake into the fruit, into the leaves, and we'll be able to get a kind of an interesting picture to see how this river could fare as a fertilizer for agriculture.
It's worth noting that we don't condone eating the vegetables growing out of the river yet. We're running tests, as Nick said, sending off to labs to understand how healthy it would be to eat. Our staff took some liberties and snacked anyways, but we don't recommend the public doing that yet. But as you see, that was a small percentage, small amount of our installation was these 3 experimental modules about ag. We just wanted to see what we could learn about that. Our mission and the majority of what we did was everything you see down this way, which is, wildlife first, focused on developing wildlife habitat where there is not any, and gearing it towards native species. And along the way, we're trying to be innovative and use innovative techniques whenever we can. And so to keep things, fresh, no pun intended, we tried out some ag stuff as well. But we'll keep kind of pushing the envelope and trying new things. And thank you everybody for your donations. And this was made possible, and we have a lot of exciting things in the works for 2018 and beyond. So we're excited that you're a part of this community now, and we'll keep you posted and let you know how we progress. And anyway, Nick, you have any last words?
No, thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you guys out in the water this year and next year after that.